Muy buenos días a todos, muchas gracias por su asistencia. Les recuerdo, estamos en el ciclo de conferencias del Centro de Estudios China-México de la Facultad de Economía de la UNAM. Los invito a revisar las siguientes conferencias. Vamos a tener un grupo de conferencias interesantes, incluyendo, tratamos de hacer el ciclo de conferencias cada 2 semanas, a veces no se puede. La próxima semana vamos a presentar un esfuerzo de esta red académica de América Latina y el Caribe sobre un esfuerzo metodológico, estadístico, sobre la inversión extranjera directa de China en América Latina y un grupo de esfuerzos muy concretos en el caso de México. Están todos muy invitados a participar. Los invito también mucho a inscribirse, a registrarse al evento que vamos a organizar ahí a finales de mayo y principios de junio. Estamos realmente muy contentos con un grupo grande, alrededor de 150 ponencias en estos 3 días. Entonces, en fin, pues va a haber de temas históricos, culturales, lengua, economía, comercio, de todo. Algunos de ustedes de acá participarán, así que estamos, solo reiteramos la invitación. I will switch to English after this brief introduction. I simply would like to introduce Ambassador Dr. Linh Lan, who is the Ambassador of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam in China, of Vietnam. Of Vietnam, I repeat, the Ambassador of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam in Mexico, I'm very sorry, and who has a long working experience in the foreign ministry also of Vietnam. She has a PhD in diplomatic, of the Academy of Diplomatics in Vietnam, a master's degree also, and who has also an interesting academic career. So we are very honored to have Ambassador again here at the School of Economics of UNAM. And I simply remind you of what is the dynamics. Usually we have a presentation of about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we have an exchange with the auditorium. So again, thank you for your coming, for your visit. We're very happy, very honored. The floor is yours.
Muchas gracias. Muy buenos días a todos. Es un gran placer de estar con usted. Es siempre un placer, un gran placer estar aquí a la universidad, especialmente aquí a la Facultad de Economía. Usted tiene un auditorio del presidente Ho Chi Minh. So now I switch to English. That's, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the introduction. I have to switch to English because it will be easier for me to express myself in English, and I would need translation for this. It's always been a pleasure and honor to be at the University of UNAM, and especially at the Faculty of Economy. That way we are very proud to have the auditorium that has the portrait of Ho Chi Minh, our national hero for national independence. And this is a very important symbol of our struggle for independence, President Ho Chi Minh Auditorium. Today I'm very glad to talk to you about Vietnam's foreign policy. I think that we will have another time to talk, as I talked to Professor about the other very important topic that is related to the university and the subject economy, that is the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. But today, as I have been requested to talk about Vietnam relation with our neighbors, with China, with other countries. So I think that it would be a better idea to give you an overview, the broad picture of the Vietnamese foreign policy under innovation, and especially our policy of international integration. I think that I think that I make myself clear. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I think that it would be very hard for me to give lecture in Spanish because even I try very hard since I came here. I already been here for 1 year and 1 year and a half. But I studied mostly for international relations in Russia, so I speak Russian. And then my first foreign language is French, and my second language is English. And now I'm trying very hard to learn Spanish, which is a very beautiful language. So from here and there I can understand you speak Spanish, but forgive me, I will be giving this lecture in English, and if you agree with me. And if I'm going too fast, please tell me to slow down, because my second master degree and my PhD, I mostly did it in Australia, the Australian National University. So that's why my English is easy to talk about international relations. So with that, I think that I would go into the brief introduction for 30 minutes, right? And then I think that you can feel free to ask me questions, and we can have not a lecture. I would like to put it a dialogue, a conversation, that anything you would like to hear more about our foreign policy directions, our foreign policy priorities, and problems, issues, I would be happy to answer, to talk to answer your questions. So I think that the first is just a few very sketch, basic information about, very similar. I started with this because it's very important. The strategic location, it's geostrategic of Vietnam. We have the giant neighbor China, and we are situated on Indochina Peninsula, bordering Cambodia, Laos, and as you see later, we are part of ASEAN. That is the 10 Southeast Asian nations that become a community. So this is a very important strategic location that you can compare with Mexico. You have a long border with the United States, and we have a giant neighbor, that is China. And we have, we have a lot of things that we can approach this from this point of view. We have, as of now, Vietnam is the middle, we are not a small country. Our population is about 90 million, so it's not as much as the Mexican, 120, right? But we are second biggest in ASEAN after Indonesia. But in Asia, after China, India, and Vietnam is kind of medium-sized country. And we also have the thank you very much. So I said I give you a kind of picture now, waiting for more people to come, and it's we now looking at Vietnam. We have an economy, very dynamic economy. We have political and social stability. We have high rates of economic growth, around 7% from 1992 to 2012. So for more than 2 decades, 20 years, we have reached a very high dynamic rate of economic growth. That raised the living standards of Vietnam tremendously, and we have, since the day we emerged from the war, we are very isolated and the embargo of the Americans on Vietnam, but now we expand our international relations very broadly and deeply. To make it brief, the World Bank called us a development, a successful development story, or development success story. Looking back, we recorded the highest GDP growth only after China for so many years. And we, at the same time, we met and surpassed many of the UN MDG, the Millennium Development Goals. That is, can show that the social development and the living standards and other indexes of Vietnam have been improved tremendously. And the latest number I want to update you on the 2015. Despite the economic upheavals, the situation complicated in the world, we have managed to have the GDP grow at the highest over the last 5 years, because the economic situation, especially after the financial crisis in the United States 2009, the world economy has been going through a very difficult situation. But we had also problems. But we have been able to manage macroeconomic stability, and the last year, 2015, we had almost 6.7, which is the highest over the last highest in 5 years, and which make us GDP per capita over 2,000 US dollars. And the FDI, the export and import, you can see we reached maybe the number. We are very open economy, similarly like the Mexican. But even more, we have our trade, total trade is 1.5. That is 150% of our GDP. Our GDP, export and imports we have over 320 billion. But the GDP is over 200 billion, so we are very open, an open economy. And the FDI showed the success of attracting a lot of investment, 2,050 billion by 2015, so it's a great number. So this, the current picture that I just given you is the result of the renovation policy of the Vietnamese Party, Communist Party that initiated in the Sixth Party Congress in 1986. So this year, 2016, exactly 3 decades, we have been open our economy to the world, and we call it renovation policy or đổi mới. That is in Vietnamese is đổi mới, innovation, reform, economic reform, and this year is very important in that sense that it's mark the 3 decades of renovation, and we have achieved so far tremendous results, as I mentioned to you. With the renovation policy, we advocate the policy of building an independent and self-reliant economy, bringing into full place our internal strength, and combined with our international integration. That's very important. Internal economic reform at home, and we open up to harmonize and to harness the strength of international integration with working with other partners in the world. Basically, our đổi mới policy, renovation policy, starting 86, we have 3 main pillars. First, to transform the century planned economy. Before we have a century planned economy and the Eastern Bloc into a market-oriented market economy. Secondly, the second pillar is to develop a multi-sector economy in which private sector plays an increasingly important role. That's very important. And thirdly, to actively integrate into regional and global economy. That's the very I put some pictures so that you can see how beautiful Vietnam is. The reason why I have been in this part of the world, because you're next to America, a lot of people still think Vietnam is still a war. And some people would ask me that are you still divided into North and South? Some right, not all, of course. And that's why I think that this is my job, my mission, to bring more information, more images, and more update about our country to our friends in Mexico. Since that innovation, we have created an ever more competitive and dynamic economic environment. And as I already mentioned, the success of our economy, and as of now, we continue to step up economic restructuring and transforming growth model. We have a growth of export-oriented economy, which I just mentioned to you, the 150% of our trade. Trade is 150% of our GDP, but still we wanted to make it more efficient. That is the mission of transform growth model, creating a breakthrough in 3 strategic areas. First, to improve market economy institution. Secondly, to develop and raising the quality of human resources. It's very important, especially highly skilled. And this is why it's always a pleasure going to a university, talking to students and talking to professors in the future of any country, including Vietnam. So the government has been placing a lot of focus on the education and training of human resources. And thirdly, to develop integrated infrastructure to support growth, to make Vietnam a modern-oriented industrial country by 2020. That's the overall target. And so I just want to, from that background, I would like to focus on our foreign policy under renovation. Since đổi mới or renovation, this is the same word. Vietnam, we pursues a consistent foreign policy of independence, self-reliance, diversification and multilateralization of external relations, and proactive international integration, striving for peace, cooperation, and development, with the slogan that Vietnam is a friend, a reliable partner, and a responsible member of the international community. So that is the big theme of our foreign policy. Recently, 5 years ago, the 11th Party Congress, 2011, marked a very important shift in our foreign policy. Before, we just focus our international integration on economic mostly, meaning we joined WTO in 2007. We signed BTA, the trade relations with the United States, and so on and so forth. But in 2011, we changed, we expanded the concept into comprehensive international integration, meaning that we integrate into the world not only in economic terms, but also in other comprehensive political, cultural, and become a very active member of the international organization, United Nations, for example. Just 2014, for the first time, we joined the United Nations peacekeeping forces. That is the symbol of what we have been being a more active member of the international community, and that is the very important shift So in foreign policy thinking, in 2011, we stressed the line of proactive. We become proactive and active international integration. So it's a gradual. We open up, we normalize relation, for example, with China in 1991. As only 5 years after innovation, we normalized relation with the United States in 2095. So it's we normalize relation with all of the countries that we had the problem with the relation before, and then we open up our economy, joining WTO, and recently I will come into it later. TPP is the latest one. So it's, with this kind of foreign policy line, we have achieved very big achievements. And as you see, we have maintained an environment of peace, very important. Stability, which is a very important precondition for development. That is our role of foreign policy. And secondly, foreign policy has contributed actively to the implementation of the objective of socio-economic development. So that's why in our diplomatic work, we talk about at least three pillars of foreign policy. Political diplomacy, that is the relation with other countries. It can be multilateral, bilateral, but political security. And we have the economic diplomacy. That is the thing that we have been doing a lot to attract more investment to our country, to promote Vietnamese trade with the world, investment trade, and that contribute to the socio-economic development, raising the living standard of our people. And that's the second achievement. And thirdly, foreign affairs had contributed significantly to maintaining territorial, sea and island sovereignty and protecting national security. I'll come to it later when we talk about the South China Sea dispute, how we call it the East Sea dispute, that you may be interested to know more. And of course, the fourth is very important. We can see that with this process of international integration, Vietnam's role and position in the world has been enhanced, raised significantly. We become active and very proactive, bring a lot of ideas into the building of, for example, ASEAN regional community. We contribute to the United Nations, also the discussion about big non-traditional, traditional security issue. That is the achievement. And so I would like to very happily to inform you that very recently, the 12th, just in January, this January 2016, we had the 12th Party Congress. Every 5 years we have the Party Congress, which is the highest body of power in Vietnam. We have elected new leadership for the next 5 years, but very importantly, we have set the direction for the next years to come. And for the next 5 years, I think that the main thing would be that continuity and stability. We will keep our main directions unchanged, and we move forward with the next 5 years. With the most important task is to maintain and consolidate security and external economic environment, to deepen our international integration, and to strengthen the position of Vietnam in the region and in the world. So with this kind of achievement, after the 30 years, we are in a solid position to move ahead with our main objective of peace and development, and make Vietnam prosperous and industrial country by 2020. That's basically the success and the result of our recent Party Congress. So I think that with that I can go to the from the overall the main theme of the foreign policy. We can see that one of the biggest important area of political diplomacy, foreign policy is the bilateral diplomacy. Before I go into multilateral, I can see that the relation between Vietnam and China and the United States and all other countries fall within the category of bilateral diplomacy. So it's one of our priorities, main foreign policy priorities of Vietnam is to deepen the established international relations in a stable and sustainable framework, giving priority to strengthening our relation with neighboring countries meaning China, Cambodia, Laos, our immediate neighbor. Similar like Mexico, from the countries around North America, Central America, Latin America. We call it the first circle around Vietnam. And overall, we have developed at least two concepts of bilateral relations. We call it strategic partnership, and comprehensive partnership. Until now, Vietnam has established 15 strategic partnerships with various countries. One of those, the first one we established strategic partnership is Russia, China, Japan, Korea, and a lot of other countries in ASEAN. For example, most recently we have established strategic partnership with the Philippines. It's one of the so in ASEAN now we have Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia, and the Philippines are our strategic partners. And we have 10 comprehensive partnerships. So you can see here that it's a very, one of the ways that we make cooperation more, expand cooperation and make it closer relation in all areas: political, economic, cultural, people to people, educational. For example, with the United States of America, we established comprehensive partnership. In this part of the world, we have established comprehensive partnership with Argentina, Brazil, Chile, but I think that unfortunately for Mexico and Vietnam, after 40 years of diplomatic relation, this is something that we still have to do. We have to establish an overall framework for relationship. Which I really...
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you mentioned that you prefer dialogue among us. No? Okay.
So maybe I will cut it short, you're right. So I will do it very quickly, more quickly than I would.
No.
Yes. So I think that I will go with I'm sorry about this. And so it's a strategic partnership. We can look into it further. And then the second priority here is the proactively and actively engage in comprehensive international integration, as I mentioned. And immediately we have participation in the building of the ASEAN community that just come into being the last day of 2015. So 2016 is the first year that the ASEAN with the 10 countries with Southeast Asian, Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, and so on and so forth. 10 Southeast Asian nations become a community. That's one of our regional integration. And of course, ASEAN have various dialogue partners that I will go into it later, but ASEAN has a very big, a very important central role in the Asia Pacific, because ASEAN has been establishing the dialogue partners with all major powers in the world: China, Japan, the United States, Russia, Australia, New Zealand. We have more than 10 dialogue partners, and ASEAN is in the middle, in the center of this networking. And so the third is cooperating actively with countries, regional and international organizations to address non-traditional security issues, particularly climate change, food shortage, water security, things like that. That's it. Now, green growth, that's the third very important priorities. And fourth, we have one of our very important tasks and focus is to promote the settlement of outstanding border and dispute territorial issue by peaceful means. So that's coming the South China Sea dispute. I will be speaking very briefly about this, but you may know that our relation with China and other countries, especially with the neighboring countries, we are on a very good footing, very good terms. For example, Vietnam and China, we have a very strong trade, which surpassed $60 billion and $60 billion. And China is one of our biggest trading partners, investment, and people-to-people contacts. A lot of Vietnamese going to China to study. A lot of we have so much in common and cooperation at all levels. But one of the things that we have major differences is the South China Sea dispute, or we call it East Sea. Basically, it's the few islands in the South China Sea that in ASEAN, 4 countries have been parties to this: Vietnam, Brunei, Malaysia, Philippines, and with China and Taiwan. That would be, as we call it in the express, you can see in the CNN, it's Spratly Islands. Spratly Islands. But the main thing is that China claimed the whole sea. China claims the whole thing, the whole of this area, making this is like become a China lake, and it would be overlapped with the exclusive economic zone, territorial shelf, territorial sea of the neighboring countries. And recently, you see a lot of coverage, news in the CNN about the reclamation, the expanding the structure on those islands, which very small, can be submerged under the water. But China has been building and expanding, militarized a lot of structure of that islands that they have been occupying. And that makes the region and the world very nervous, because by expanding the small islands and militarize that, they would change the nature, the marine system, and change the nature of that islands to make it, bigger, to make it to claim the area around the islands. That's why they would call it the tongue shape, the 9 dot, claim the whole sea. This is a very alarming, concerning issue that you may have been across in a lot of CNN news and all over the world. The United States, the European Union, any countries that have trade with the Asia Pacific worried, because this is a vital maritime routes going through Malacca Straits. 60% of the trade, of the world trade, going through that area that China claims its own sea. That's very important. That's why everybody is worried. And that's why people that have interest in world trade, in the free navigation, maritime security, would be worried. And that is not only the issue between Vietnam and China, it becomes the issue of regional security. So I think that I will briefly talk about that, and we can go into deeper if I understand this is I take too much of your time, but then I should read. So yes, you know, this we can talk a lot about this because it's the expansion, the reclamation activities have changed the status quo, the nature of those islands. And also it's against the spirit of the declaration of conduct between Vietnam, between ASEAN and China. We had the 2002 ASEAN-China Declaration on the Code of Conduct of Parties in the dispute. Basically, the declaration called for restraint, no use of force or threat to use of force, to respect the status quo in the area, to seek peaceful resolution to the dispute. And as of now, that's kind of activities threatening that and will violate that spirit declaration. That's why ASEAN and China, we have been working hard to put focus on the strict implementation of DOC, and at the same time, China and ASEAN countries, we are working on the more abiding, we call it code of conduct. That is a more abiding for the parties not to take actions that complicated the disputed area. That's the code of conduct that we are under negotiation right now. Basically, our stance is very clear on this consistent stance that we insist on the peaceful settlement of the dispute. We have all the historical evidence to support our suffering, our claim, but still we think that we can have to resolve the differences according with the international law, especially the United Nations Convention of the Law on the Law of the Sea, 1982. We call it UNCLOS, and that's basically the South China Sea dispute. Multilateral diplomacy, I will be very quick on this. Vietnam become a member, and especially we become an active member of the various fora. And with Mexico, we share the same year in 2009. We both have the seat of non-permanent member of Security Council, working for peace and security of the world. And we have, excluding developing countries, we share a lot of common stance, and we supported each other confidential in the Security Council, and we working together very well in 2009. And so multilateral diplomacies are also very important in terms of, and you can see, bilateral, multilateral. It's combined, reinforcing each other. For example, with China, we have very strong bilateral relations, but at the same time, we have the dispute, the South China Sea dispute I just mentioned. That is multilateral. The Spratly Islands, it's a regional security. That's why we have to work both bilateral and multilateral to work together to solve the problem. So that's international integration. I just very briefly, I would like to talk, I would mention that from being isolated after the war, we have now had relationship with more than 200. I think that the exact number may be 220 countries and territories. We have to equal territories because, for example, Taiwan is very big trading partner of us, but Taiwan is not a country, but one of the very big trading partners. And we have open economy, we become the members of one of the major international organizations. And I would like to just focus on the economic and the international economic integration that we have been so far. Very recently, especially last year, we concluded negotiation on the free trade agreement with the European Union. 28 countries of the European Union, concluded the FTA with Russia, we call it the custom union, including Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, that's another group. And we also negotiating with the EFTA with the Nordic countries and Switzerland, some small countries. And just on the 4th of February, as you know, Mexico is in it. We have signed, we have concluded, we signed a Trans-Pacific Partnership with 12 partners countries. All together, with this, all together with these countries, actually we have now Vietnam at the center of the network of free trade agreement with 58 countries, and covering 80% to 90% of GDP of the world. So you can see, for example, Mexico had 44 partners for free trade, and but Vietnam also has been very successful in going ahead with the free trade agreement with various countries. And so we have also the free trade with Korea, for example, which Mexico also has. And for in Chile, in this part of the world, we have free trade in Chile, even before the TPP. So TPP would also bring in some of the bilateral free trade partner with us. So in international integration, ASEAN, I just talked very briefly about ASEAN. We joined ASEAN in 2005, and since then it's more than 20 years. Vietnam became a very active member of ASEAN, which became an ASEAN community on three pillars, political, economic, and cultural communities. We have just finalized it by the end of last year. And so I would briefly touch on Vietnam-Mexico relation, and I stop here for your questions. So just a couple of words about Vietnam relation with Mexico. Just last year, 2015, we celebrated the 40th anniversary of diplomatic relations, and we've been always grateful for Mexico to support and establish a relation with Vietnam just less than a month after the end of the American war in Vietnam. And since then, our relation has been growing in every area, political, economic, people-to-people relations. But of course, because of the distance, because of the the priorities that, for example, we do trade a lot with the North American countries, and only recently Mexico has been looking to the Asia Pacific as the world very dynamic center of the world economy. I think that with that trend, our two countries' relation can look forward to much more opportunities, because it's still our relationship, even though it's rich, over 2 billion trade number last year, but it's still very much under the greater potential between the two very open economy, very dynamic economies, and we are both members of APEC and TPP, so we look forward to much more opportunities, and especially Vietnam will be hosting. Vietnam will be the site of the APEC summit in 2017, so that's next year. And we hope to make first presidential visit by your President Peña Nieto to Vietnam after our 40 years of diplomatic relation. Not any president set foot in Vietnam. Actually, when we hosted the APEC summit in 2008, we expected your president to come, but at the last minute he could not come, and he sent a special envoy instead. So this year we hope that as a very important economist in APEC, and we attach a lot of great importance to expand our relationship with Mexico. Your president will be able to join and to have the first state visit ever to Vietnam in 2017. So with that, I would stop here, and I would look forward to share with you further ideas on any topic that you're interested in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. So what we will do is we will take 2 or 3 questions, and so you have time to respond. Is that okay?
Sure.
So everybody that makes a question, please say your name and your institution or where you come from.
I saw a lot of hands. At least nobody's sleeping. Thank you.
Please.
Hello. Thank you very much for your exposition. It's very interesting. My question is, I
What
want
is
to
your
go.
name?
Okay, my name is Patricia Diaz. I come from a private company who works on importation and exportation from China, mainly, and India. And now I'm interested to go to Vietnam as tourist first, and then see if we can make some trade with your country. I want to know if we need a visa to proceed in your embassy. And also I want to know if there is a trustful company to take a tour to visit Vietnam and Laos. Thank you.
Greetings. I thank you for your interest exposition. My name is Eduardo, and I come from the Universidad Iberoamericana. I would like to ask two questions. The first one would be related to the South China East Sea dispute. Given the recent events when Indonesia has protested about these China fishermen into its national waters, and also Malaysia, as you have exposed. I'm thinking that there's a situation, a regional situation, after the changing of the status quo, that could be the favorable conditions for the Asian countries, ASEAN countries, to balancing against China. Because some countries, I think my example is Indonesia, has been bandwagoning to China, but these events forced Indonesia, I think Vietnam, I don't know, to balance against China. Maybe not hard balancing, but just soft balancing. So I would like to know your insights about this probable future scenario when these countries will balance against China. And my second question is related to if you know some academic or scholar work that can show us a little bit more about Vietnam international relations or foreign policy, like a classical work of Vietnamese foreign relations. Thank you.
Good morning. Ambassador. My name is Benito Antonio Sanchez. I have 3 questions. The first one is about the relationship between Vietnam and China. Please, could you tell me if Vietnam has a free trade agreement with China? That's the first question. The second one is, which are the advantages and the disadvantages in trade relationship between Vietnam and China? And the last question is talking about Mexico-Vietnam relationships, the trade relationship, which are the 10 top commodities between the 2 countries? Thank you.
We finish the first round, then the word, and then the other round. Okay. What is going
After the first round, thank you very much for the questions. I'm very happy to hear that there's a lot of interest about Vietnam and about our region, about our relation with our neighbors. And let me go to the first question. Vietnam is very welcoming our Mexican friends to come to visit our country. And you can always go to our embassy. I give you my card and the address, and you can the visa procedures is very easy to obtain, and advise you of the appropriate needed material for the tour in our country. Later on, if I have time, I will show you very short video clip that we have newly created. Welcome to Vietnam. You can see a very beautiful Vietnam, very growing dynamic that make you want to make your trip even sooner. And I would later on, if I have 10 minutes, I do that. And so please come to the embassy. We'll have you all the questions you need, especially not only the visa, but also if you have any business in mind, you can go and visit the country at the same time meeting the businesses to see what are the opportunities there. The Conferencia is going to organize a vision in Vietnam, and Pro Mexico just went to Vietnam, and we have recently I just received the delegation of President of AMIEM, that is the Association of Exporters and Importers of Mexico, and they are planning the visit to Vietnam probably soon. And they also brought the movie producer, actor Eduardo Barres-Devi, the one that produced the movie Un Gran Pequeño, the little boy. He came to the embassy, and they are very excited going to Vietnam, exploring the country. And just last month we had the big blockbuster of the movie, Hollywood movie theme in Vietnam, the Kong, they're making a big movie, millions of dollars in Vietnam, because we have beautiful landscape. And if anybody already, maybe you, seen the movie Indochina, that the actress Catherine Deneuve did that. That movie has been shot on Ha Long Bay. That's one of the 7 wonders of the world. We have a lot of UNESCO recognized as the Patrimonio de la Humanidad by UNESCO, similar like Mexico. So, welcome to Vietnam. And secondly, the South China Sea dispute. Thank you very much for this second question. That it shows that you're following the events very closely. Yes, recently incident with Indonesia, Indonesia is not a party to the dispute, but because of the fishing area because of the overlapping area in the South China Sea. And Indonesia now may want to join the Philippines and other countries in bringing the case to the court, international court, about the legal basis of the Chinese claim of the whole sea. So this is, you can see that that is very much concerned regional countries, even the countries that are not parties here. You write in terms of looking at the option of he's an international relations specialist, and he's interested in balancing, hedging, soft balance, hard balance, and fortunately I've been doing it as well. I've been looking many years on the international relations, major powers relations in this, political science, politics, and balancing and things. But I believe that ASEAN countries has a very long-standing traditional balancing. You call it soft, you call it dynamic, you call it whatever you call it, but definitely it's not hard balancing because ASEAN has keeping distance, at the same time promote relations with all major powers. As I mentioned in the beginning, ASEAN has a central role in the Asia-Pacific regional architecture. No countries and nobody in this world has such a very important role. Because you see the friction, the tension between the United States, because the United States is very growing concern about the maritime security and the free navigation in the South China Sea, as I mentioned, and the European Union also voiced their concern about that tension in the South China Sea. United States, European countries, Russia, and other countries, more everybody is concerned. Everybody that trade in the Asia Pacific. But because of tension with the United States, China, and other major countries, and there's no organization in this part of the world that can do the central, the bridging role like ASEAN. ASEAN is the one that brings all other countries on the table, set the venue for the, we call it the ASEAN Regional Forum, ASEAN ADMM, even other European, France, and defense minister come to Shangri-La to discuss regional security. That is the organizational central role of ASEAN, bringing external powers into the region. Vietnam, we have been very active in bringing Russia and the United States to the East Asia Summit. You know the East Asia Summit, and the central role is ASEAN. And we're bringing all the major powers to discuss global, regional and global security at the East Asia Summit. And of course, Obama comes to Vietnam in May. And this is the second time the President of the United States of America came to Vietnam over the past few years. Bush, Obama, Clinton, so it's, you can see that our relation with the United States, China, with other major powers. We have strategic partnership with China, with Japan, but comprehensive partnership with the United States. The same with Indonesia, Malaysia have very close relationship, good relationship, strong cooperation with the United States and China. So this is not something like hard balancing, like military something, but the key would be engagement, active engagement of major powers and keeping, multilateralization of relations. That's we can prevent the risk of, we don't go to put one country against another. That's definitely not the policy of Vietnam or ASEAN. But we want to bring in regional and global actors that have interest in the dispute. You can see that from that way, and we want to have more voice to make the dispute settle through peaceful settlement. The United States and the European Union support ASEAN efforts in building community, and at the same time they encourage the ASEAN-China Code of Conduct building. That is what you can call it soft balancing if you like, but it's more like engaging external countries in the regional architecture. That is the central role of ASEAN, the centrality of ASEAN role in regional security structure. That is the main thing. If that can answer your question. If you want to meet some academic to speak more deeply about that issue, you can come to the embassy, and I can do it with you, because I've done a lot of work and I published a lot of articles on the United States-China relations and the balancing of how we do it. But other than that, I don't know anybody can. In our embassy, we don't have many people, and we don't have academics that around here in Mexico. So sorry about that, but if I can be of any help, I will be happy to do so. Thirdly, Vietnam, China. Three very important questions regarding Vietnam-China trade, agreement and trade in Mexico-Vietnam. So for the first question, I think that I have to stress that Vietnam with China, we have major outstanding issues on the land border has been solved. We achieved a major agreement on the border demarcation and on the Gulf of Tonkin between Vietnam and China. We have huge border problems which we have been solved. The only remaining issue is the South China Sea. That's why at the same time, we are concerned, but we are optimistic that the overall relationship, there's so many areas of cooperation, a lot of interaction. At the same time, for the remaining, for the problems that border issue, we have done a lot. We have maybe gone a long way. We have demarcation all of the long borders between Vietnam and China, because you know that in the Vietnam, maybe we ended the war with America 40 years ago, but the most recent war is the border war with China in 1979. We have a lot of border issues, but we have already, after normalization with China, we have already concluded the agreement. It's very important for our national security. So, Gulf of Tonkin borders is very, border issue, land border issue is even more complicated. We have solved it. So the South China Sea dispute is multilateral. Of course, we have the Paracel Islands, which is bilateral. We work with China on bilateral and multilateral channel trade. But this is the remaining issue that we keep working in the spirit of international law and business agreement. Trade relation with China, as I mentioned, we have trade surplus with almost everybody in the world except China. And I think that's with the United States, with Mexico, with everybody else. China is huge manufacturing, and we have a huge surplus. They have huge surplus with us. We have huge deficit with China. We are close to each other. We have a lot of trade relation coming every day. Very similar to the situation between Mexico and the United States. 80% of your trade is going with the United States. But we are actually in a less dependent position than that, not 80%, but it's like we have 60 billion out of 300 something, right? So it's maybe only 20-30%, but the trade deficit with China is the biggest. But with the Trans-Pacific Partnership and with the trade agreement with the European Union, which the European Union and the United States are the most important market for Vietnam exports, we would, we would diversify our market and lessen our dependence on any particular market in that. I think that's also the direction that the Mexican also want to do. And the last one is Mexico, Vietnam, right? We asked about the commodities that most industry trade between Vietnam and Mexico. Basically, we export a lot of our main products to Mexico, like shoes, textile. We are a big exporter of textile, shoes, fish, rice, but recently rice has sometimes some tariff. So we hope that after TPP we can continue to export rice to Mexico and other products in agriculture. For Mexico to Vietnam, the trade is less, but we will import from Mexico some chemical, food for cattle, agricultural products, things like that. But I guess that we should do more, and I really think that this is to meet, to see what are the opportunities there. We would love to have more Mexican avocado, which I love. We have beautiful avocados, and we have a lot of good meat, which will be very, very exportable to Vietnam. We have 90 million people, a significant market there. Yes, so that's basically. Do I answer your questions?
So we'll make the second part.
Independent researcher. I'm very pleased to meet you because I have been an American in Vietnam in 16 and 17. So there is something, it's a little difficult because I used to live in China in 1978, 79, when the friendship pass was closer. That was one of my things that I hope to do in the future, to visit your country. So I remember, because I have been writing a lot about China, that China has invited 3 times since the 19th century until 1897, Vietnam, when there was the Indo-China War, and there was an agreement. And also for me, something being a multidisciplinary scholar, chemical engineer, economist, political scientist. So pollution in Vietnam, because of the bombing, since Typhoon bombing, and also the orange agent dioxin. Some of your field rices, they have mines, not only from the American time, but also the border with China. So, and there is something like channel catfish that is coming to Mexico that is polluted. So it is something I think you should take into consideration, because it's not expensive, but I mean, I like Nam, and I like a lot of Vietnamese food also that I have tasted. So the thing is that this war that costed 25,000 Chinese dead and 20,000 Vietnamese people, because, well, I know a little more, I cannot go farther, because perhaps we can talk in a private thing. That makes that this friendship that Uncle Ho Chi Minh make also the balance in between Soviet Union and China never get involved in the dispute. You get also aid from the Soviet Union to China, because for me there are economic interests. So those Chinese minority who were there in Vietnam that wanted the government to bring down to the countryside, are there those people that are with this oil, like in China? They have, like in China, these business people. They are involved into the Vietnamese Communist Party. So are they using the partnership experience of those people? Because most of the people are looking only for profit and looking for novelty. So I wanted to serve, as I have mentioned, in other countries with a bridge in between Vietnam and Mexico. So I think you have a very long history, struggle, you are hardworking, and I think we need to learn about Vietnam, how to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Antonio. I'm from Ciclo Nacional. Actually, as we know, in ASEAN is happening a big problem of sea piracy. What is the position of Vietnam in the sea piracy problem, especially in Malacca Straits? The second question, actually, how is fighting against the piracy in ASEAN? It's all.
So, the first question is what? The second piracy?
Sea piracy.
Sea piracy.
Sea. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Gonzalez, actually collaborating with Cechimex. And you explain about many policies. Among them, you talk about green economic growth and the improvement of human resources quality. About those topics, I would like you to ask how are you managing to reach this green economic development? Because there is usually a paradox. Economic growth usually brings more pollution and problems related to this. And about the improvement of human resources quality, I would like you to ask which are your strengths, in which areas, and which are your main policies and sectors to develop science and technology. Thank you.
Look, since we don't have any more questions, I will make a fourth question. And so I would like to get back to the issue. Again, Mexico and Vietnam have both a big problem in the north. Regarding this topic, regarding trade and investments between Vietnam and China, what is the strategy of Vietnam vis-a-vis China? Are you trying to integrate and deepen the integration with China, or are you trying to be more diverse and trying to have a broader share from the rest of Asia, from Europe, from the United States? What is in qualitative terms your long-term strategy? And the second topic, you mentioned in general, your presentation was very clear that all these recent maritime disputes are being negotiated at the regional level. But there are also some bilateral negotiations with China. If you compare the regional and the bilateral relations and negotiations, where is Vietnam getting some final and definitive results? Are bilateral relations and negotiations with China today possible, and are you reaching some conclusive results, or is this impossible? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question that made me really feel that we are in a real conversation, because your question touched upon various angles, specific of the foreign policy of Vietnam, and especially the relation with major powers. Because of course the reason here is that we talk about China, right? This is China-Mexico Centro in the Facultad of Economy, so I think that whenever we talk, China is concerned China. Not only in Mexico, Vietnam, and I think everywhere. In Latin America, even in Brazil, in Argentina, in every part of the world, because China rise is really impressive, maybe the biggest ever phenomenon of international relation over the past century. The rise of China is very impressive, and it concerns a lot of countries, not only in ASEAN, but about the world. Everywhere I go, especially when I put on every discussion now, you can see that about the indication of China's slowdown of economy. You see that in the rise of oil. For example, you see that in the economic difficulties of Brazil and Venezuela and everywhere, and because of the supply side of the slowing of the Chinese economy would mean less demand for oil, and that impact on the price of oil. And it's very strategic. To take an example, of course we are more immediate neighbor, we have more problems like I mentioned, we solve the land border issue, but we still have a lot of problems, especially South China Sea, and we have in terms of trade, we have the trade deficit, for example, and you rightly mentioned the pollution, things that the technology, the transfer of technology from China, and the thing that we have to be aware of the environmental issues of the economic growth. The coal, the exploitation of natural resources, right? And just recently, our deputy foreign minister attended the Mekong River, the Mekong Lan meeting in China. We have so much interdependence, economic, environmental, and that's what we have to live with this. We have to live it with it. Whether it's our opportunities and challenges, we have to do it in a very peaceful and cooperative manner that will serve the interests of the people. That's the basic, the major thing. I will go back to that again and again, but I think that that's very, very important. China and the United States, for example, both we have the recent war, and like you mentioned, we have still lingering legacy of war, the consequences, the price we pay, the suffering of our millions of people died, and especially the Agent Orange victims, the land unexploded mines still in Vietnam. You're right, that is there, and that is something that we have to deal with and have to cope with and have to overcome it. That we have to heal. That's yes, the scars of the war. And we work with the United States and other NGO and other countries in the world to help the victim of the Agent Orange in Vietnam. Millions of them. Now the babies that born from those Agent victims are it's a very sad story. And it's still going on. And we don't want to see that kind of, but still at the same time, we work with the United States for a better future, to look, we call it the shadow of the past, we look to the future. We work on how to heal that suffering, and the United States also help out with cleaning the area of pesticide that the American put millions of tons in Vietnam. A lot of our jungle forest has still been destroyed because of that, and the human suffering are even worse. You cannot believe it. It's one of the things that I feel very close to heart when I work on this issue. So many families still suffering. This is a very long-term consequences. Sea piracy, yes, this is a growing, very important area that ASEAN countries and the neighboring, piracy in this region, and we have been working with not only with countries in the region, but also India, with other European countries in terms of, coping with these piracy problems. But it has to work with the more developed countries in terms of the equipment, technology, and to develop our facilities to cope with the piracy spread. And within ASEAN, we have the cooperation that the countries work together to cope with the piracy problem in this very widespread in this part of the world. Green growth. You're right that green growth is very important for developing country. Vietnam has a strategy, national strategy of green growth, but we have to recommit with the, to cut down on our carbon dioxide emission. We have been working with the European Union and several other countries, and I was working with the European Union to work on the alternative energy sources to replace the traditional one. But of course, now at the price of oil is such low, it's may somehow slower the progress on that. But this is a very conscious list at the national level to build, for example, green growth, and we also focus on growing more forest. And the Norwegian, and we work with the United Nations and our Nordic partners to build more forest to counter the pollution and to counter the impact of the environment, impact of economic growth. And you see that in the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership as well, there's a lot of clauses regarding environmental standard and other kind of requirement. And Vietnam has been working with the international community in that aspect very actively. Human resources. We have, Vietnam, we are one of the, maybe have the highest literacy rate in the world, but I mean that like others, the strategic breakthrough that I mentioned, to break through the three bottleneck that we have to move to overcome, we can call it middle income trap. In 2010, Vietnam became the middle income country. We are now the low middle income country according to the World Bank definition, and Mexico is higher, medium middle income country. But we want to avoid the middle income trap, which requires have a very strategy of focusing on human resources and especially skilled labor. We have been attracting a lot of investment, as I mentioned to you. Samsung, Intel, a lot of big country company, IT company come to Vietnam, and you need to develop more skilled labor. And we work with Germany, with a lot of countries to develop a training center, vocational center to develop, to train more skilled labor to meet the demand of the expanding FDI investment, and at the same time, we send a lot of people, like students, to go to the East Coast, to Australia, Japan, to study. And in Vietnam, we have been working with the United States to build the Fulbright University. Fulbright University, we have been working with the United Kingdom to build Vietnam UK University in Vietnam. And we have that kind of university with the German, the Vietnam German University in Ho Chi Minh City, and we have with this kind of international cooperation, we have been, doing a lot on this education, human resources development. Finally, very important questions from the chair at today's meeting. I think that you have been touched on a very important, the core issue of the Vietnam-China relations. The question regarding bilateral and multilateral regional approach between Vietnam and China, and Vietnam strategy with China. As I mentioned again, and I would repeat my position that our relation with China since normalization, and last week we just celebrate the 65th anniversary of Vietnam-China relations. So we have so much in common, Vietnam and China. We have long borders. We share long borders. We share a lot of cultural, historical, affinities. We have trade every day. So, and with China, we have comprehensive strategic partnership. Not only strategic partnership, but comprehensive strategic partnership. And I think that shows at every level. For example, the exchange of delegation at the highest level between our two countries. And as you know, Vietnam and China, we both have the leadership of our Communist parties. That's the common, the share, our party relationship very strong, as well as the state to state, people to people. So it's not engagement, even it's strategic, comprehensive strategic partnership. We cooperate. We work with China on every level and very deeply. And as you can see across the board, we have so many interaction, intertwined interest. Similar in Mexico and the United States. I don't think that Donald Trump is going to win, but you can see that it touched on the nerves of everybody in Mexico, right? Because you are so close, you have said so many things, you have so many interests, common interests, and that's very important. So, and you have to work with the United States for the interest of both people. We cannot be otherwise, right? Same with Vietnam and China. We work on every level, politically, economically, people to people, educational. We share, and most importantly, like you said, that we have problems. We keep our channel of cooperation and dialogue open. For example, 2014, you remember the time when the Chinese moved the HD 1982, the oil rig, into our sea. It's in our exclusive economic zone. It's in our continental shelf. According to the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, that is our exclusive economic zone. And the Chinese pulled the oil rig into that, and it created a lot of tensions. At the same time, we keep working with the Chinese, requesting that they have to withdraw the oil rig from our. We requesting them bilaterally, and we assist them to withdraw from our sea. At the same time, we work with other international community to condemn the action of China. So the whole world see that, finally after 1 month, they came to our sea in May 2014, and they withdrew it in a month afterwards, after a lot of international concern and reaction to that incident. No, mischief is with the Philippines. It's a long time ago. And when mischief happened, the ASEAN has a joint declaration condemning that action of China. So I think that in this regard, regional and the common stance of regional cooperation is very important, because this is not only bilateral issue, it's regional, it's world security issue. That's why the United States, that's why the European Union concerned. And if anybody who support and who respect international law of the sea, this will set about the basic principles of international relations that is enshrined in the United Nations Charter, would be supportive of our peaceful stance on the South China Sea. And you mentioned the bilateral and the multilateral strike. Of course, we Spratly Islands is multilateral, but we call it Paracel Islands that China took from us in 1974, just before the fall of Saigon. they took all the islands when the Saigon, the south of Vietnam, and just 1 year before we reunify our country, and we were in the middle of the war against the Americans, and we lost that paracel, and it's the Chinese occupied the whole paracel. On that paracel, we keep working with China bilaterally. We still talk at the highest level. We still have all historical evidence to support our claim in the area, but we were willing to work with China peacefully in bilaterally, multilaterally, regionally. So this is parallel. This parallel together. It's not something that is look at the other thing. I think with that strategy, and especially we would still focus on high-level dialogue. High-level dialogue. Just last year, our Secretary General of the party went to visit China, and not long after first ever history, the Secretary General of our Communist Party went to visit Obama, to visit the United States of America. So you can see that we have integrated, we have engaged with various major powers in the world in a very, spirit of cooperation, and I think that works as a strategy of international integration and companies. But as you say, working with the major powers, our major lessons from the war, from the history, but we had to give ourselves, we had to stick to the policy of independence and self-reliance. We don't depend on any particular major power and go with one against another. That is definitely not our policy. That's very important to remember the lesson of independence and self-reliance, foreign policy, and that's what's today. I hope that if we still have time to see, but if we can spend some more time, maybe 10 minutes, I would like to invite you to watch a very, it's in Spanish, Welcome to Vietnam. In Spanish, so you can have some fresh image, beautiful image about our country.
Les invitamos a que visiten Vietnam, país de las maravillas. Vietnam, país de historia milenaria, al que el Creador le ha regalado paisajes naturales hermosos y majestuosos que conmueven al corazón humano. Especialmente con excepcionales valores de biodiversidad, cultura y arquitectura. Vietnam cuenta con 8 patrimonios naturales mundiales reconocidos por la UNESCO como excelentes destinos turísticos que se sitúan entre los más atractivos del sudeste asiático. Una bahía de jalón, misteriosa, hermosa, romántica, junto con un Chang'an antiguo, poético, con la majestuosidad de Phong Nha que embriaga a todo aquel que lo visita. los antiguos templos tranquilos, misteriosos del santuario de Mesón, la ciudadela imperial de Taedong, la ciudadela de la dinastía Ho, la antigua capital imperial de Ho, vestigios de las espléndidas dinastías de la historia de Vietnam. Vengan a Vietnam para sentir su belleza natural y conocer mejor la fuerte vitalidad y el rico y diverso potencial del desarrollo de nuestro país. El pueblo vietnamita posee un ardiente patriotismo. Es amante de la paz, la independencia, la libertad, respetuoso de la formalidad y la honradez, siempre perseverante en el trabajo, creativo en la edificación y desarrollo del país. La gente vietnamita es sencilla, apacible y hospitalaria. Es un país multiétnico, con 54 grupos étnicos hermanos que conviven en armonía. Cada uno de ellos cuenta con sus propios matices en términos de costumbres, cultura y festividades. El atractivo de Vietnam proviene de su rica cultura, que cuenta con los patrimonios culturales mundiales reconocidos por la UNESCO y que está paralelamente acompañada de la asimilación selecta de la esencia cultural mundial. Es el lugar común de millones de creyentes religiosos, además de las mayores religiones tales como el budismo, el cristianismo, el protestantismo, el islamismo y las creencias locales como el jawaísmo, la variante Huahao del budismo. Nuevas religiones siguen siendo introducidas en Vietnam, lo cual ha creado un cuadro religioso multicolor en la vida espiritual de los vietnamitas. En Vietnam, la libertad de creencia y religión siempre es respetada y garantizada. Al venir a nuestro país, no deben dejar pasar por alto la gastronomía típica, con platos que se han convertido en un arte y forman parte de la nostalgia de todo aquel que haya tenido la oportunidad de visitar el país. Se trata del sabor inolvidable del paraíso gastronómico de Vietnam. Desde las reformas de la renovación en 1986, Vietnam ha alcanzado éxitos excepcionales en el desarrollo económico a través de mantener una alta y estable tasa de crecimiento y un intercambio comercial vigoroso, además de realizar una rápida transformación de la estructura económica en la que la proporción industrial y de servicios logra ocupar más del 80% del PIB. Con una próspera economía de mercado, Vietnam está avanzando con pasos firmes en el camino hacia la industrialización, modernización y la integración amplia y profunda en la comunidad internacional. Vietnam no solo es la nación que ocupa el primer lugar mundial en la exportación de arroz, sino otros de sus productos tales como el té, el café, la pimienta, las semillas de marañón, los productos marítimos y agrícolas, los productos textiles, también han logrado un lugar sólido en el mercado internacional y dominan las preferencias de los consumidores mundiales. Hoy día, Vietnam está reestructurando la economía en dirección a priorizar la aplicación de las tecnologías modernas y hacia el crecimiento verde y sostenible. Al determinar que la infraestructura es el fundamento del desarrollo, el gobierno de Vietnam siempre da importancia a la inversión, la renovación y la modernización de ella, a fin de crear la conexión más favorable para el crecimiento sostenible del país. Con un ambiente de vida pacífico, un ritmo de vida vigoroso, donde los valores humanitarios son ampliamente valorados y respetados, Vietnam desea brindar a los turistas y amigos internacionales las experiencias de una vida exacta, tal como esperan, en donde solamente reina el éxito y la inmensa felicidad. Las labores de educación, formación y capacitación para los trabajadores y estudiantes también han recibido una atención especial con el fin de mejorar la calidad de los recursos humanos, ya un gran motor para el desarrollo sostenible y satisfacer la necesidad de un desarrollo socioeconómico en la época de integración. Con su favorable localización geográfica, su gran mercado doméstico con más de 90 millones de habitantes, que ocupa el 14º lugar en el mundo, el 60% es una fuerza poblacional joven, de menos de 25 años, con un nivel y calificación laborales cada día más elevados. Su ambiente de inversión estable y su marco jurídico favorable, Vietnam promete dar grandes oportunidades para la inversión, el negocio y la cooperación internacionales, y es el destino ideal de empresas grandes y prestigiosas en el mundo. Especialmente, con una política exterior independiente, soberana, pacífica, cooperativa, de diversificación y multilateralización en sus relaciones exteriores, proactiva y activa en la integración internacional, de ser amigo, contraparte confiable, y miembro responsable en la comunidad internacional, Vietnam ha logrado éxitos importantes en relaciones exteriores después de 3 décadas de renovación. Ha logrado sostener un ambiente pacífico estable y favorable para el desarrollo, salvaguardar sólidamente la soberanía, la integración territorial y llevar la posición del país hacia una nueva altura. Vengan a nuestro país para sentir el fuerte flujo vital de esta tierra, percibir el valor y el alma de la gente de este lugar, disfrutar la belleza de las maravillas naturales, los patrimonios culturales y tradicionales del pueblo vietnamita, y fundirse en el flujo del desarrollo fuerte y milagroso de uno de los centros económicos más dinámicos en Asia Oriental, que está emergiendo para integrarse en el mundo. Vengan a nuestra tierra vietnamita, un Vietnam lleno de identidad tradicional, un Vietnam pacífico, estable y desarrollado. Le damos la bienvenida a Vietnam. Amamos Vietnam.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed.